So you have Blender open for the first time and you're looking at it like, alright, how do I do the thing? The first thing I wanted to know when I opened up a brand new file inside of Blender was, how do I make the object move and how do I make my scene move? So to make the scene move or rotate your view around this object, you hold down the middle click on your mouse. If you have a mouse that does not have one, I very much suggest that you obtain one when you are working with Blender. There is ways to work around that. I suggest looking that up if that's something that you're going to kind of try to deal with. It's a very severe handicap though, so I suggest against it. Now, the first thing I wanted to do when I was inside of Blender, the first time I opened it up, was I wanted to make this move. So when I select it with the left click, I'm going to hit the G key to grab it. This will move it wherever I would like. If I hit the left click, it will leave it wherever I am currently located at. If I hold Control and press Z, I will undo that. If I hit G, on that same object I'm currently selected and I right click, I will let go of that object. I can hold the left click and select, and I can hold, and everything inside of that box will be selected. If I hit the G key while I have multiple objects selected, those objects will remain in that pattern or those placements according to each other and grab the entirety of those objects. That goes for G, R, and S key. Those are important. Let's do rotate, which is the R key, S, which will scale. As you can see, it gets pretty bananas pretty fast. I suggest messing around with those quite a bit. Using that middle mouse click will help you quite a bit while you were doing these. And you can mess around with just what you have here on the beginning general file. Now, something else that will help you out here is the number pad. If you have the number pad on your keyboard, you win. Hit the number 1 on your number pad and it will take you to front view. 3 is right, 7 is top, 9 will flip around whatever you are currently looking at. And if you hit 4, 6, 8, and 2, it will work as arrows and rotate in segments, making it a little bit easier to work with. So that's the basics of that. Now if you go over here to the properties, now I'm currently have the cube selected. If I select instead the light, as you can see, I was currently on the materials when I was having the when I was selecting the square. When I selected the light, the materials tab disappeared because a light does not have materials. It instead has its own properties panel called light. Pretty or object data properties. That seems a little bit more official. You can change everything inside of these panels and get really crazy with it. You can even go put equations. Let's try 5 plus 6, and it'll figure it out for you. You can mess around with all of these. Just know that if you're messing around with something like particles, you may freeze Blender, so you may want to save before you start messing around with your project. Now, you can also right click and it'll give you another set of properties for each one of these. Go ahead and play around with that. It's a lot of fun. So I'm going to select back over here. As you can see, I changed the initial color. It starts off a little bit more like this, and it probably says something like material. You can add new materials, but as you can see, nothing will be changing. Now that's more of an advanced kind of thing that you're going to want to get into, but be aware that the materials are here, and you can actually change the material that is on this cube. You just won't see it until you come up here and change your viewport. We're currently looking at a version of the viewport that does not show the materials and or lighting. I would like to show just the materials for this explanation and show you that it does in fact change to a blue color. And that is that for the basics of the material, that is. A lot of these you won't really need to worry about. Modifiers comes up quite a bit, specifically the subdivision modifier. And this is a fun tool to mess around with, but it is, again, not quite basics, but be very aware that it is there. It will definitely come up. So you have the basics idea of the panels over here. You can change the render engine simply by going to the render properties and selecting either cycles or Eevee. I don't have much experience with Workbench, so I don't have any recommendations of such. You can change up here. There are multiple workspaces. Now, there's sculpting here, which is a really fun tool that you can start messing around with pretty much right out of the box. There's UV editing, which will definitely come up again. And this is to help you map the texture that is on your geometry. Texture painting, I personally don't use it a whole lot, but you can quite literally paint using color and or normal map or whatever you might desire, and create texture paint on the actual mesh itself. Shading. The shading tab will be editing the nodes that make up the material that is on your face, or at least that is primarily what I use it for. You can also come up here and change and decide that you're changing the actual world itself. It's really that hands-on once you get the hang of things. There's the animation, rendering, compositing. This all comes down to when you're finally rendering, and this is for more like complicated scenes that may involve rotoscoping or motion capturing or anything to that note of editing video. Geometry nodes, for when you really get into it. I honestly don't use geometry nodes whatsoever. But now that you have the basics of the GRS key and you can really get in there and start playing around with the original cube, I suggest you start playing around with that and then flip on over to the next video. If this is the first tutorial that you have watched for Blender, please drop a line and let me know. That would be awesome. And I definitely suggest flipping around from tutorial to tutorial, get different perspectives. Let me know what I have left out. Let me know what you liked, what you disliked. Hit that subscribe button, and I will see you on the next video.